Hi, this is Kerry Artak with Wicked Stocks, bringing you an update in Bitcoin. I did record this video on Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. I put out a handful of update videos over the last month, a little more frequently than before, because we've been testing a long-term support area. And I need to kind of walk us back as to why this is a long-term support area. 83,586 to 84,071. 83,586 is a 5-year rising channel top that we settled above back in November. And at that point in time, our indication, at least my anticipation, was 122,433. There were no line studies left really to sort of hang your hat on in terms of resistance. And this was considered a real breakout where Bitcoin was expected to rally from roughly 82,000 to 122,000. That hasn't happened, obviously. 122,433 is nothing more than subtracting the October 22 low against the November 21 high, and then adding that to the October or to the November 21 high, the full swing, I like to call it, A minus B plus A. It's a great targeting mechanism. I've used it for years in certain markets, and it comes into play very well when you're in uncharted territory, when you're in new highs. And so since the January high, we've obviously fallen away. This has coincided with a lot of the tariff drumbeat. And the sell signal that I'm seeing right now, at least tentatively, coincides entirely with the implementation of the tariffs that have occurred this week, and also China's retaliation. So, and I don't think Bitcoin really it doesn't really play into the tariff trade situation, but what it does play into and is highly correlated with is the stock market. And so as the stock market is in a bull market, the speculative fever, if you will, spills into, if you will, Bitcoin. And when the stock market enters a bear phase, just the opposite, apparently. Now, Bitcoin is a relatively new instrument, but we can make that correlation, I think. And we also have a rising 1/3 speed line. And once again, your speed line is a trend-defining element. In other words, from this November 22 low against the January high, the rising 1/3 speed line is created by casting a trend line from this low to the 1/3 pullback point once this high is put in. So in other words, this trend line right here in the time frame of the January high merges perfectly with the 1/3 that is a 33.3% pullback, and that trend line here at the time is 77,987, and I'll tell you that the 1/3 pullback is 77,987. So you draw a trend line, and it continues moving up through time. It is a trend-defining element. We've been testing both the channel top and the speed line. They've converged. We've broken below them quite a bit over the last couple of months. You've got the February and early March violation, but we've not yet closed below this area at the end of a week. And this week, though, we gapped clearly lower. And this is also a stock market gapping lower, if you recall, Sunday evening futures, Monday morning. So we are in the midst of a long-term sell signal. And by long-term, I mean, I wish I could I'm going to erase these little levels here in this next chart. Long-term means bearish continuation to the 2/3 speed line. This is what I'm expecting. Assuming we close Friday, April 11th, below 83,586, I see a sell signal in Bitcoin that is likely to yield the rising 2/3 speed line. And like, let me go ahead and create the X hairs here. Like this trend line at this point, 77,987 is the 1/3 downside pullback. The 2/3 downside pullback is 46,783, and you cast a trend line from the November 22 low to the 2/3 pullback point in the time frame in which the high was made. I hope that all made sense. Any of it, I've used speed lines for years. They work pretty well. Nothing is 100%. Channels, speed lines, nothing is 100%. But if it's a template that you're comfortable with and it makes sense, this one does. I can say that closing below 83,586 is our indication for the upper 40,000 area and climbing. I see this as a probable 3 to 5 month downside play. Also, closing back below the 5-year channel top after having closed above it, closing below it. I like to use the catchphrase or the adage, the rejection of a long-term buy signal is in itself a valid sell signal. And that's what we're seeing here. So we have a rejection of a long-term buy signal by closing back below the 5-year channel top at 83,586. This is your new resistance, in my opinion. 83,586 to 84,071 is an area, if you're long Bitcoin, this is an area to get out. If you can play the short side in Bitcoin, and I know you can under different exchanges, there's puts to be bought. You can even play the short side in futures. There are different futures contracts that are available. So I'm not going to go into all that. But I will say I see nothing to do in Bitcoin for the next half year or so other than to be short, out or short. Below 83,586, 49,830 expected. And these are climbing and changing weekly. I'm going to go to this chart here, back to this chart, and just say that yes, we have what I would call near-term support in the 68,964. That is that 21 high, and you've got a 3/8 downside Fibonacci, a B to the January high. So this area, the 3/8 pullback, is 73,396. We've come close to testing that this week already, 74,412. I don't see this as a significant zone of support. I do think it can create a pause in the sell-off. I do see this as an area we could bottom out and rally back into the 83,000, 84,000 area within a matter of weeks. But I do think the risk is more to closing below 68,964 than the likelihood of closing back above 84,071. Now, I could be wrong, and if the market does close back above 84,071, then it neutralizes these bearish expectations that I presently have for the 49,830 long-term speed line. And last thing I'll say in terms of this area here is if we close below 68,964, and I can recreate that on this chart here, if we close back below 69,000, what is the number here? 68,964. We're probably just 2 to 3 months away from testing 49,830 because we have broken firmly back into this old consolidation region. We've tested kind of the top of it already, but if we close below this, and I do believe the high settlement price right here, 69,745, that is the high settlement price. I think so. 16, yeah, it is. So it is roughly the same. 68,964 if we close below it, 2 to 3 months, 49,830. I consider 49,830 a later year target anyway, below 83,586. Now, what if I'm wrong? What if we rally out of here and close back above 84,071? Let's zoom in and take a look at the near term. And at this point in time, based in part on this week's low, and if we continue breaking south, these channel structures will be reconstructed. They'll have a different angle. But right now, I'm going to say that if we close back above 84,071, that does not look likely this week. But if we do, then we have to reckon with this near-term channel top at 87,945. And what I would say is if we close above 84,071, that does neutralize bearish expectations for testing the 49,830. That would neutralize it. Does it then become a buy signal in effect? Not so fast. It is more of a subjective play, and I do see that this channel top that is presently 87,945, next week 87,397. If we close above this channel top, that is a full reversal, and I would expect within a matter of weeks, could be 2 to 3 weeks, could take the better part of 2 months before testing our next channel resistance at 103, 156. And it would be in the months ahead a violation of 103, 156 that would clearly re-anticipate that 122,433 long-term wave count. But we're a long way from that right now. I'm going to leave you with this image. I think this is the likely outcome, that we close this week below 83,586, and technically I would anticipate the 49,830 speed line as a 3 to 5 month target. I'm going to leave it at that. I'll be back again, I'm sure, next week with another Bitcoin update. Now, we'll see. If this continues to play out, as I'd mentioned here, there's probably no need because these levels will be irrelevant for intra-week trading. But if we reapproach them, then I will certainly provide an update. By the way, wickedstocks.com does put out daily analysis in the SPY and the Triple Q, a weekly analysis in Apple, and also the NASDAQ 100 and S&P 500, and 2 individual stock picks every week that you can count on for delivery. We're always looking for at least 20% moves. They're very well suited for the 3 to 5 week out to the kind of the 3 to 5 month near-term investor. I'm going to leave it at that. You have a great day.